This is Ready Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, and all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready Set Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide. So I'm Tracy C. Wright, and this is Ready Set Reiki. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome. It's Ready, Set, Reiki. I'm Tracy C. Wright. Well, today, what an honor it is to have one of my favorite guests from Germany joining me again, but with a little bit of a different topic. So I invite you to enjoy this journey with Karin Klein. Now, she is a trauma-informed body therapist, energy worker who is shaking up traditional New Age framework with her systematic approach to energy work. Now, as a German engineer's daughter, she brings precision and directness to energy healing. Now, after discovering that her Reiki attunement had blocked her natural psychic abilities, she made it her mission to work with human energy fields in all its 18 plus dimensions. Now known for drawing on her 20 years of experience as a somatic trauma and prenatal body therapist, she produces immediate, tangible results through precise healing techniques. Her comprehensive energy perception program teaches practitioners and newcomers how to expand their natural intuitive abilities using systematic, reproducible protocols. Now, she's based in Germany, but however, she has clients all over the world. Karin, welcome to Ready, Set, Reiki again.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here again.
And wonderful. So let's begin our journey together. Last time we connected, we spoke about the energy, but today we're going to travel down also with energy, but another thing that is very close to your heart. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. So I live in Germany, Cologne. Some might know this. It's a beautiful city. It's a very Mediterranean city, although it's quite in the north of Europe. And it's called the heart chakra of Europe, basically. Oh. So I really love being here because the energy is very much alive and beautiful and very lovey. So this is quite important to me. Yeah. So anything else you already said? I'm a body therapist, I'm a prenatal psychologist, and an energy healer, and I combine all these three things because I see that this is a very good way to see the whole person, the whole human being in all its different dimensions. Maybe not all, but the ones that I know of.
Beautiful, beautiful. So 20 years of experience in prenatal body therapy. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to begin that journey in prenatal?
Well, my body therapy training inspired me to start the prenatal thing. I started the body therapy just as a hobby, to be honest. I started because I love working with my hands. I love massaging. I love touching people. So I started as a hobby, just learning massages. And then it was already like body reading in the beginning. It wasn't just the handling of the muscles and the tissues and stuff. So we had some training in body reading first. So just so we knew when a client came to us and said, "Oh, I'm having a headache. I'm having a difficult tense neck." We knew, okay, the problem for the client might be in the neck, but it actually is in the calves. So we're going to start with the calves, just as an example. Sure. And in this training, we often talked about how our bodies remember everything. So we talked about the cell memory. Many people know about the muscle memory when you learn to practice an instrument, or when you practice sports, your muscles remember how to do things. But we also have the cell memory that goes way back to our very beginnings as well, just cells that we started as, right? This fertilized egg cell is the very first cell that we come from. And in this idea of we have been babies and we have been just cells, it was quite an easy bridge to build to see, okay, let's talk about prenatal psychology. and then later on talk about prenatal spirituality. So yeah, this is how I went there.
Beautiful, beautiful. So those 20 years of experience in this journey that you've had, how aware are babies before they're born? I mean, many people just think, their awareness comes from the moment that they are born, but is there awareness before they leave the womb?
Yes. Yes. Babies, and I don't want to frighten anybody because I know how sensitive this topic can be, especially for women who are currently pregnant or have just given birth. So we're not, we're not talking about pointing fingers or anything. We're just
right.
telling about our knowledge and wisdom today, right? So yes, babies are aware of everything and anything from the very first moment. So the very first moment being conception. How can that be? Honestly, we don't know. So this is where my spiritual, energetic explanation comes in, because psychologically we cannot explain this, because obviously there's no brain in the beginning. The brain only develops after a few weeks. And even when the baby is born, the brain isn't developed totally. We know that our brains are finally at a stage that we can say it's fully developed in our mid-20s. So we're not talking developed brain as a newborn baby. So how aware are they? In my work, I did some prenatal, I did and I still do some prenatal bonding, which means the pregnant woman, I help her to get in a deep relaxation state, so a deep trance, to get in contact with her unborn child. So you yourself are a mother, right, Tracy? So you know that as mother, you talk to your baby in the womb all the time. But many women don't know how to receive messages back. So talking to the baby is one thing, but this is oftentimes a one-way street. And prenatal bonding is making it a two-way street, and even taking a diversion to include the father if that's his wish. So this is quite an important thing to know, that the father too can have a prenatal bonding moment. I have a few anecdotes to talk about. But yeah, so this prenatal awareness is very much there, because the women who did this prenatal bonding, there's always this very magical moment when they say, oh my God, I just had a thought, it wasn't mine. This thought that I just had comes from the baby. Mm-hmm. This is so magical. And then the images develop, and the conversation unfolds, the conversation that the mother to be has with her unborn child. And it's so, well, it's amazing to witness.
Beautiful. So I have 4 biological children, and it was interesting that with each pregnancy, in the womb, and then once they were born, that personality seemed to carry. And for instance, I'll give you an example. So my one daughter I was pregnant with, I crave root beer all the time, and I'm not a big root beer drinker. Just when caffeine, no caffeine, but just root beer. And then as a child and an adult, she loves root beer. And then my son, he would move a lot at night. He would just be, and then when he was born, he was this baby that like he had his days and night mixed up. And even now he's he's in his latter 20s. He's up later at night. And it's just so interesting that some of those characteristics, even from things that I craved, that I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't normally like, and it had to be like a specific, like, potatoes from this particular restaurant, with no gravy. And then it's just interesting seeing the child now as an adult that like, oh yeah, I don't like gravy. I'm like, oh, that was how it was.
Yeah.
So I just find that so interesting how
it is
that carries over.
And
So
it's not only preferences and aversions, like you just gave some beautiful examples. It's how they perceive the world. It's what they know about what is happening in the world and in their family. So let me just give some examples of what some women I worked with have experienced. So one had this conversation with her baby where the baby said, "You know what? You need to talk to daddy. He needs to clear his conflict with granddad before I come to be." And she did not know anything about any conflict that her husband had with his own father. So she went and asked him, and he said, "How do you know this? I never told you about it." And she said, "Well, your son does. So how does this baby know about a conflict that has been brewing between two adults who walk this earth for decades? So how can this be?" I can only have this the spiritual soul explanation, but I find this very fascinating.
it's interesting. I have a friend here, and her daughter's name is Priscilla. And, here in the United States, when people think of Priscilla, they usually think of Elvis's
Yes,
wife. And I
same
had
here.
asked, well, why did you choose Priscilla? And she said, she told me when I was pregnant with her. And it was just, the name came to me, and I'm like, she's Priscilla. So
Yes,
things like that can happen, if you're open
absolutely.
to it. Yeah.
100%. I love that example because this is something I tell the women I work with. Ask your baby what it wants to be named.
Mhm.
And some are really shocked because really, because the names might not be the ones on their preference list for their children.
Yeah.
And sometimes they agree to use the baby's real name
Mhm.
as a middle name, and then they choose something from their preference list. And
Sure.
it's so funny because sometimes the baby says, "Okay, well, yeah, or all right, let's do it this way," because that's such a funny thing because some babies are very accommodating, so they really realize, okay, I'm this wise old soul maybe who knows everything,
Mhm.
and I'm coming into this very human, very aversion preferences driven life. And so you have a preference, you don't like this name, but this is my real soul name, so please take it somehow. Let's make it the middle name maybe. And this is so funny. Yeah.
Sure. When my oldest was little, like, and I'm talking like when she can be good to talk and play with
Mhm.
dolls, and everything was Rose, 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 Rose. And
Mm.
so, like, what's your doll's name? Rose, Rosie. And then as an adult, of course, you forget about that. And I guess we were mentioning, if she ever had a child, what the name would be. And it came up again. And I said, everything that you had doll wise was named Rosie, So just interesting that maybe she knew
Mhm.
that,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
even when I was very young, I just knew I was going to be a mom, and I
Mhm.
knew like two of the names of the girls that I were going to have, and I just knew from a very young age, and it was just like,
Mhm.
if someone would say, ask, well, what if you don't have a boy first? I'm like, no, I'm supposed to have a girl.
Mhm.
Like, I just knew it from as long as I could remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And babies know, as I said, babies know everything and anything. They're really aware of the situation the mom is in. So, is she in a loving relationship or
Mhm.
not? Does she have financial problems? Does she have health issues? The
Mhm.
baby knows about that.
Yeah.
The baby really knows, yeah, everything and anything.
Yeah. Well, that works perfect with our next question. So
Oh,
what do babies remember from their time in the womb?
oh, yeah. There's quite an interesting book. I think Chamberlain is the author of that. It was in the 90s or early 2000s that he questioned moms about what they remembered from pregnancy, and he talked to 4 and 5 years olds,
Mm.
and so he talked to them separately. He interviewed them separately, and really the 4 and 5 years olds could absolutely remember anything that the moms were telling them. Like they remembered the one time they went on a Ferry wheel. They remember the one time mom and dad were fighting. They remember the one time that mom had a car accident. So they really do remember everything. So obviously in the beginning, when they're newborn, they cannot tell the story. But as a body therapist, I know that they can tell the story with their body. So there's a beautiful exercise that sometimes I do in trauma therapy with moms and babies. The mom is laying on the floor to feel very safe there, not on the table, because laying on the table, there's you're always like, oh, am I falling down if I'm moving? So they lay on the floor, and we lay the babies on their naked belly, and the babies, in their way of moving up, because they always move up, and the way they move up, and the way they roll over, and the way they express themselves in this connection, in this skin to skin connection with their mom, they're really telling either a prenatal story or their birth story. And you really, when you have a schooled eye, you can really recognize, okay, this was the twist they had when they were just passing the birth canal, and this was the movement of the head coming out of it. And this is so amazing to see. So they're recounting, they're telling the story without words, obviously, but children at age 2.5, 3, up to 5, 6-ish, they can tell you the stories. And then it's school time, and somehow everything becomes more 3D, earthy at that time, and they start to forget.
Yeah.
Lest we still talk to them about it. So I always encourage parents to talk about their children, and to say something like, okay, my experience was, do you remember maybe, because when you were in my belly, or when you were in mama's belly, I had this experience, and what do you remember? Do you remember anything? And if we foster this memory, they can keep it on for later on.
Beautiful. And I guess keeping with the comment of Elvis Presley, his daughter, I guess after she passed, Lisa Marie, her daughter, Riley, published a book. And in the book, and it was, talking about how Lisa Marie in utero felt like her mother, Priscilla, didn't want her. Like she felt that, and that carried on into her adulthood. So that's quite interesting, just that, thinking of that parent that, hey, I don't want this. And the stories, Priscilla eating like an apple a day to restrict her weight, and how that affected Lisa Marie, right?
Yeah.
In her adulthood. And she struggled with this. And then there's the addiction. So it is lifelong trauma.
It is lifelong. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't only affect the one person, it affects the generations after, as you just said, right?
Sure.
Because I don't know if anybody, I think this, Tracy, because we talked about it, but maybe our audience doesn't know about this. So the egg cell that we originated from was present in our mother's body when she was an 8 weeks old embryo in the body of our grandmother.
Right.
So grandmother is pregnant. The baby in the womb is 8 weeks old. This baby, this embryo, this fetus, as at 8 weeks old, it's a fetus. So this fetus has egg cells already, and one of those egg cells will become us.
Yeah.
So we not only carry the memory of our mother's life until we were born, we also carry at least 8 months of the memory of our grandmother's lives when she was pregnant. I mean, let that sink in, right?
Yeah.
It's, I think
Yeah.
it's mind blowing, because when I think of what happened in my grandmother's life when she was pregnant with my mom, well,
Yeah. It was a
mhm,
lot, wasn't it? A lot. And just
a lot.
even things with diet and like my grandmother smoked because they didn't know any better and have some wine. And, um, there was a time period in our history where they had given medication and the medication
Yes.
caused birth defects. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many different things that have gone on that
yeah,
we've become better now, but
yeah,
they went through that because they didn't know any better.
yeah,
No. Yeah.
yeah. My grandmother, she was one of the, we call it Trümmerfrauen, so the women who built up a destroyed Germany, because my mom was born in July 46, so the
Yeah.
Nazis had just been defeated.
Yeah.
Germany lays in rumbles, and these women were just clearing up everything. And this is how my grandmother was pregnant.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah. Oh my
quite
goodness.
something to remember.
So this next question is interesting. So how does the birth method affect us later in life? So I had 4 C-sections in my life, and just recently I've been learning about how that could have affected or did affect my children being
Mhm,
born that way instead of through the birth canal.
mhm,
And
mhm,
things to do with the neck, and I'm just like blew my mind. So how
mhm,
does it affect the method?
mhm. Um, Lifelong. So yes, it does affect us very much so.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Tracy, were these all planned C-sections? Were these emergency C-sections?
So what
Because there's a
happened is my
difference too.
first child was frank breech. So I was headed on my way to the baby shower, and I felt a kick from my lower back. I thought, well, that's interesting. And her little head was right under my ribs, and it was a
Mm,
legs were, V-shaped, feet were up by her, and I had only gained like 17 pounds, and it was all baby. And I
mhm,
had told my doctor, I think there's a head here. And she's like, no,
mhm,
no, 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 no. She's very Southern. She's like, Miss Tracy, I don't think so. And then I came in and we did the ultrasound because I wouldn't stop. I'm like, there's something. And
mhm,
sure enough, it's like, oh my goodness, you're going to need a C-section. So that was a planned
mhm,
C-section.
mhm,
And then with my son, I said, well, let's try for a planned C-section. And she had said, well, if you go into labor before, then we'll just try it that way. But I've never experienced labor. They were all planned C-sections. They were
mhm.
weeks from the due date. So it was very controlled
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, first, sorry to hear that, because I certainly believe that you would have preferred a natural birth in the beginning. So, yeah. But so let's talk about different aspects of it. There is some psychological and emotional effect that it has, and there is some energetic effect. So let's start with the energetic one, because this is quite easy. The navel chakra, belly button chakra, is originates at birth. It's created at birth. So the navel chakra governs our mobility, the legs, anything that is hips, knees, joints, ankles, toes, feet, plantar fasciitis, etc. All these things are governed by the navel chakra, but also our courage and our will to live also is governed by the navel chakra.
Mm.
And the navel chakra is, as I said, originates at birth, because when a baby is born naturally, the baby gives the impulse to say, okay, now is the time. The baby's hormonal changes give the impulse for the whole system to initiate the birthing process, and the baby pushes itself with the legs in a normal natural birthing process. So this is not happening in any other birthing method.
Mm-hmm.
So the process is interrupted somehow. And in a planned C-section, it doesn't even start. So yes, it will affect the navel chakra in whichever way. And then there's mental, psychological, and emotional impact that it can have. So the planned C-section is, as you just said, it's very controlled. There might not be this personal impulse to start something new.
Sure.
They might, somebody who's born with a planned C-section might not have this initial spark to start things.
Yeah.
They might always rely on authority to decide when to start and when to finish. There might be, depending on when the C-section is planned, so how much time before or after mostly it's before the due date. There might be a sense of never having enough time.
Sure.
I'm not ready. I'm not finished. And feeling always rushed, feeling pushed. So this can have an effect in different life areas.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that. So my third daughter, her name is Jenny, and Jenny had a planned C-section for September 14th. However, at the time, her dad and I were living in Charleston, South Carolina, in a place called Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And Hurricane Floyd was coming. And my doctor called and she said, and this is before the cell phones, this is in 1999. So the doctor called, she said, the Southern doctor, Miss Tracy, we're going to have that baby tonight because they're going to shut the town down. A hurricane's coming. So that was an emergency one. And my planned C-section had always been like 7 a.m. So my daughter and my son, the first and second one, had the kind of similar birth time. Well, Jenny, nope, this was 8 o'clock at night. And we went in and it was like, they're starting to empty the town. They're getting evacuated. And they said, we'll have to take you out in the morning by ambulance because they're emptying out the hospital. So I go in, it's moving fast. It's, after 8 o'clock at night. And when they started and go to bring her out, she actually, because, my husband at the time she had a lip and he's like, look at the lip. Like she was mad. Like we woke her up. She's like, like she was so like upset because it was 8 o'clock at night. Yeah. And it's just interesting, speed forward, she will be 26 this year. And just what you described, she feels like, she's not working hard enough or she's being rushed and things like that. So some of the things that you said as well. Yeah. And in addition, I have 2 daughters that have kind of hip issues, which you mentioned. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Right. Yeah. So there you have it, how that can affect it. And you would never know until someone pointed it out, because what else was I supposed to do? A hurricane was coming, right? It was on its way. And just the time in the evening where she was all settled and, here she comes into the world and she was like, and so the joke was the hurricane was coming and it actually ended up turning. So they would say to her, well, it knew you were born, so it turned away. So, and everybody would say, are you calling her Floydette? You're going to name her Floyd? I was like, no.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, but you're touching on quite a sensitive topic there too, because our birthing experience is nobody's fault.
Exactly. I've had people that told me that you did like I actually had somebody years ago tell me that I had the McDonald's of childbirthing, that it was the lazy way. And I was like, oof. And this is it was a young, well, not real young. I mean, I was married and I was probably about 24, 25 when someone said that to me. And I'm like, what? It's like, I had to have her that way. I mean, I guess there was things as midwives could turn and things, but just to think if I would have had her 50, 75 or 100 years ago, I probably would have died, or she would at least die. Yes. And so to shame another woman like that.
Terrible.
out of my hands,
Mhm.
it just shows you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know how it's in the US, but in Germany there's so much societal pressure on young mothers,
Mhm.
um, to do everything perfectly, to
Yeah.
be such good mothers, and to take their vitamins and do the sports and the Pilates and the yoga,
Yeah.
and give birth naturally with hypnobirthing and whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure. So I really want to emphasize that, the way you as a mother give birth is not your fault in any
Mhm.
way. It's just like life happens, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
the
yeah.
way it is. And
Yeah.
in the same way, the way we were born, it wasn't our mother's fault or our grandmother's fault or whatever. So I really want to emphasize that.
Yeah, just to give you grace because it was beyond my control. I mean, I
Yes, absolutely.
didn't make the informative decision at the time.
Mm.
It was, yeah, we have to do this, and that
Yeah,
was
that's yeah,
yeah,
that's just what life is, and that's it.
yeah,
Period. There's nothing more to say about it. But there are some other birthing methods, so maybe we're just going to touch on that very very quickly.
sure,
So there's the C-section plan, as we talked about. There's the emergency C-section, where the baby gives the impulse of starting the birthing process, but then it's not finished. So these might be adults that later in life feel like they start things, but they cannot finish without help from the outside.
Mhm.
We can observe this quite beautifully in children already, when they building things, when they're, so let's say 2-3 years old, and they're building with the building blocks, and then comes a moment when they say, "Oh, daddy, can you please finish?" Or, "Mommy, can you help me finish this?" Drawing, painting a picture, drawing a picture, and then they come to mommy and say, can you help me finish this? Because this is what they did not experience, the doing the thing entirely themselves.
yeah,
But this rushing part and this relying on authority can be something they experience in adult life. And then there's a whole list. So there's quite some impact that it can have, but it definitely will affect the navel chakra as well. And then there's the vacuum and the forceps. So this too might not be very well known, because I know most people think that both forceps and vacuum are to pull the baby out, which they're not, when they're used correctly in their intended way. So the vacuum is to pull the baby out. So the baby is blocked for whatever reason. The birthing process has stopped. The baby does not come out. This is when you use the vacuum to really pull the baby. And then again, as an adult, you will have this feeling of being pulled, of not having had the time to finish whatever you want to finish, and to being really not pushed in that case, but pulled. You might have what we, as body therapists, call a trauma site. So you might not like or even tolerate being touched on the head or on the top of your head.
right.
And again, we have this authority problem, but a little bit different than with the C-section, because with the C-section, it's more like, okay, this, you can realize it's more, I needed that to survive.
Sure. Yeah.
With the vacuum, the psychological and emotional imprint is more a resistance to authority, because the baby in that moment didn't realize that they needed to be pulled out.
Yeah.
And the forceps is not a pulling instrument. The forceps is a guiding instrument. So sometimes the baby is not blocked, but it doesn't find the way through the birthing canal. So because there is this moment where you have to turn your head, and then turn the head again, and then turn the shoulder, and then you come out. And in this turning and turning and turning, there might be this moment where the baby just loses its way, as to say. And then you use the forceps, which is like, how do you call this? thing where you grab something with.
Yeah.
So it's they grab the skull and they guide it, they turn it. They do not pull, they turn it.
Yeah.
So then again, you have I do have quite some clients who have forceps birth, because these are people who are looking for guidance in life.
Mm.
Which way am I going?
Yeah.
They need an authority to tell them, okay, this is going to be your next step.
Yeah. Yeah. They also used to have here in the United States twilight births where they would sedate them and then use the
Oh
force.
yeah,
Remember?
well,
Familiar with
yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah. They used to do this in the 80s a lot, right?
I know at least until the 60s.
Mm.
They might have done it a little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was talking a lot about the baby does it by itself, but obviously it does not, because obviously you know this as a mom, the birthing process is teamwork. Mom and baby work together.
Right.
And when the mother is sedated, the baby will not feel that it's in contact with the mom.
Right.
Even with an epidural, this can happen because the mom is awake, but the baby doesn't feel the birthing canal, all the flesh surrounding the baby in that moment is sedated, so the baby doesn't feel this contact anymore. So yeah, that too can trigger abandonment issues in the adult later on.
Sure.
And even in the child, of course.
Yeah. And I think the twilight sleep technique was developed in Germany.
Oh yeah, might be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was used by one of the queens. I think Queen
Oh
Elizabeth.
yeah. That's
During
right.
her
And
childbirth. Yeah.
later on, they use laughing gas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, how does prenatal bonding work, and what positive effects can we see on both the mom and baby?
Okay, so prenatal bonding is basically a training where the mom learns to deeply relax, which in itself is difficult enough. And then they are guided to get in contact with first their uterus. So it's a visualization where they are talking to their uterus, and then they ask for permission to mentally enter to get in contact with the baby. And it's quite interesting because the images the moms get when they do that. There's one very classic image they get in the beginning. So they visualize entering the uterus, and then they see themselves as very, very tiny persons, and the baby is just big in the uterus. And then with time, when they're used to it, the dimensions get a better relation to what is really happening. But in the beginning, it's this, okay, the baby is so big. And this is just a symbol for the newness of the role as a mother. So I see myself as this very tiny person, and I see this big baby and the big responsibilities that come with it. And I don't know if I, very small one, will be able to handle it, and all these fears that women have in the beginning of their pregnancy. And with time, this changes. And then they see themselves as adults and the babies as babies. And it's also a process that the baby learns that mom is doing this. So the mom is really getting in a very conscious contact, a very conscious and mindful contact with the baby. And then the baby answers. And as I said in the beginning, there's always this very magical moment when the mama says, there it was. That wasn't my thought. That just wasn't my thought. And I remember that one mom, She was a second generation immigrant from Morocco. So she had dark hair and a little bit darker skin. And her husband, her German husband, had dark hair too. And she said, I don't know why, but I see my son blonde with blue eyes. This cannot be. This cannot be. I'm just imagining it because this is how cute babies look like. And I don't know, but this cannot be. And then her son was born and he had blonde hair and blue eyes.
Wow.
And they realized that the father of her husband, who wasn't alive at that moment, had blonde hair and blue eyes. And so, yeah.
Beautiful.
And so funny because she always said, it just can't be, but this is the way I see him.
Sure. So, amazing. And I love how you said, ask permission, right, yes, of the baby. So it's so important on all levels when you're doing that type of work to get permission, whether it's to a dog, a hamster, a tree.
Yes. Yes.
And even the baby.
Yeah. The uterus first, because the uterus is protecting the baby, even from the psyche of the mother. So this is quite an interesting part. And yes, ask permission of the uterus and of course of the baby. Yes. So the positive effect of prenatal bonding is there is no reported postpartum depression.
Oh, good.
All the women that have been, so I did this work and I have a lot of peers in Germany, and it's also, I know it's taught in the US. It has been taught for the last 10 years, I guess, in the US as well. So it's this prenatal bonding work originates from two Hungarian psychoanalysts who started this work. And so I've been trained in 2006 until 2009. I was the third class, I guess. So they started in the beginning of, in the early 2000s. Okay. They started to teach this in Germany. So of all the women worldwide who have been through this process of prenatal bonding, none have postpartum depression, which is quite amazing. The planned C-section do not happen because there's no need for it, because the baby is prepared for birth. The emergency C-section rate is like 2%, which is very, very low. And mothers report that even after birth, they know exactly what their baby needs. So they do not have this, oh my God, it's crying. What does it want? Is it wet? Is it hungry? Is it tired? They know already because they have this almost telepathic communication with the baby.
Right.
Even after birth. So yeah, it's quite amazing. It's quite an amazing work.
Good. Well, that ends our first part of our journey together, and I'm going to guide you to the next section, which is social media questions and questions from energy. So here we go. Number 1, how do environmental factors impact fetal development?
Oh, good question. Very good question. Well, they do because, as we said in the beginning, the baby is aware of everything and anything that happens. So, and you gave some beautiful examples. Babies know, are their mothers eating well? Do their mothers have financial issues and stress about it? Are they in a loving, supported relationship with the father? One of my teacher, Ray Castellino, an American who's sadly deceased, he always talked about the double layer of support. So the mom is helping the baby develop. The mom needs support. So may it be the partner, the husband, the child's father, or a friend, the mother, whatever. The mother-to-be needs support. And this person needs support. And this person needs support. So when they say it takes a village to raise a child, this is a little bit of this idea. So we need to have somebody else take care of us if we take care of someone. And by the way, this goes for energy healers as well, right? So we are taking care of our clients, so we need somebody to take care of us.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So this is why, as an example, I go to see my supervisor at least once a month.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just to be sure that I do my own energy work routine every day. My energy clearing, hygiene stuff.
Mhm.
But I see my supervisor at least once a month, just to be sure that I am cleared and I don't miss any blind spots, etc. Just to have support, just to have somebody who supports me.
Sure. It's so interesting because sometimes as healers, you think you can do everything and all, but you need that support as well. Whether unintentionally, the energy drains as well. So I often check in too, so go to the other people for the help and yourself well. And we were discussing that before, we chatted today about, how I just kind of like taking some more things off of my plate this time. And that's another version of self-care. Like, what can I take off the plate here? Get a little bit of air out of the tires and reset a little bit. So perfectly fine. I mean, pausing and redirecting doesn't mean you're quitting, right? Taking a little break doesn't mean that either. It's just, what? We're going to reset a little bit and get that energy back and flowing.
100%. So the fetus really is affected by the stress around it, because the fetus is living in the universe womb, and the womb is living in the universe mother, and the mother is living in the universe earth, whatever, family earth, etc. And there are quite some interesting research about how this affects. I don't know if you remember this. They called it the Dutch winter study. There was a winter in the Second World War where the Netherlands were having a famine. They did not have anything to eat. Quite a dark time in history. And the babies who were born then were very, very likely to develop diabetes, obesity, etc., because they learned that the world out there isn't plenty. So there is not enough food, but when they were born, there was enough food, and they were able to handle, to metabolize that food. So this is just one example. There's
number 2. Can birthing patterns be generational?
Oh yes, they can. Absolutely. So in prenatal bonding, what we do is prepare the baby for the natural birthing process. We explain everything. So this is a section of 9 sessions where we prepare the baby and the mother to really emotionally say goodbye to this very intense and physical connection that they have. And then we explain to the baby, okay, when you come out, this is what you're going to do. You're going to turn your head. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And when you're born, it's going to be cold and the lights are blinding, and there will be people around, and it's going to be loud. And just be prepared. So just so you know, this is going to happen. So yeah, this is a part of that. We're preparing the baby to know what is going to happen exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, you think about, getting books and reading and taking classes as the adult, but to think of, to prepare and just talk the baby. It makes
absolutely. We talk the baby through.
Right.
And then in this process of talking the baby through, we also emphasize the fact that, okay, you know what? Your dad was a C-section birth. But you don't have, and I'm giving this example precisely because we often think generational is from mom to daughter or to son and to the feminine line, but it can be the father as well. So we really emphasize the fact that the baby knows whichever way the parents were born is not what the baby has to do.
Sure.
The baby has just to follow its natural birthing process. Because yes, the patterns are generational. A C-section baby often has a C-section baby.
Yeah. Well, my mom had me. It was a very difficult pregnancy, with the tear and everything. And she would tell stories and it often kind of like, oh man. And so I got to be honest, when they said, oh, we're having a C-section, I kind of felt a little relieved because of the stories that she had shared with me,
Yeah.
a young mother. And I'm like, gosh, so, but it's interesting. And my grandmother, delivered natural. So that just shows you an example right there of how unique it can be. And
Absolutely.
just what I had to deal with at the time. And honestly, I think in my personal opinion, you think you can do everything when you're pregnant. And I kind of was moving a hope chest and I felt her turn. And so I think it was what I did and not other factors into it. So that changed how that went. So.
Yes and no. Because let me just talk about the women and couples I treat with when they come to me with difficulties conceiving. They want to be parents, they want to get pregnant, and they just have difficulties achieving that. So when they come to me, they always have been through reproduction, medicine, etc. So we know that from the medical side, there is something wrong, or there might not be anything wrong, and still they have problems. And the first thing that I'm asking them is, what do you know about your own pregnancy? So when your mom was pregnant with you, what do you know about that? Some know the story, some don't. So they return and ask their moms if they can. And then they come back with 99.9% tell a story of the pregnancy was stressful in a way, whatever way that was, but the pregnancy was stressful. So when this grown-up woman in front of me says, okay, my body isn't functioning because I want to get pregnant, I want a baby, I can't. Why can I not? And I'm telling her, okay, so you learned, coming back to this cell memory thing we were talking about in the beginning, you learned as a baby in your mother's womb that pregnancy is stress. So what does your body do? It prevents you from getting stressed. So your body is doing a wonderful job at keeping you in harmony and alive without putting on a stress factor on top of it. And this alone, for women who want to get pregnant, this change of perspective alone is oftentimes very, very helpful. And then I do some energy work on top of it, of course. But this realization that we learned, as in your case, Tracy, your body learned that pregnancy is stressful. Or the birthing process is stressful.
Yeah, makes sense. Right.
So your first daughter, she knew that about your birth.
Sure.
When she was in the womb. So in a sense, we could say that she prevented you from having this experience.
Yeah.
So yes, it is generational. Absolutely.
That's a pretty good example, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 3. So if we're able to do energy work on babies before they're born, how can I, as a practitioner, modify my sessions for a pregnant client?
Oh, beautiful question. So you said it yourself, Tracy, always ask for permission. Always ask for permission. Always. So yes, when I read the aura, when I do energy work, of course, I'm asking for permission of the person in front of me. I'm always asking for verbal permission. Unless the person is in a coma or not able to express themselves verbally. And then I would ask the aura of the baby, is it okay to work with you? And generally the babies are very willing to be worked with. So generally they're I don't know if you have much experience with that, Tracy. I myself always find that even with pregnant women who do not want to work on their babies, but they come with whatever issue, and they just say, okay, I need some energy clearing. The baby always is there in front of her and talking to me first. So I need to play with the baby first, just telling, okay, yes, I know that you're there, and I know that you're so excited to be born, etc. But now today is a session with mom. So can you please just wait a little bit and relax? And I'm working with mom first. So this is quite interesting. But yeah, you can do energy work on babies. Always ask for permission. What else would I change? What would you do, Tracy?
For a session, I actually had one the other day, and when I was actually flying back, I was in Pittsburgh for a little bit. I was flying back on the plane, and the baby came through, so the ancestors with that. But same thing as you had done, just have the session. I had the person on, like, we did it on a yoga mat on the floor, and the session. And I worked with a particular, I'm trained in different systems of Reiki. So I actually use Kid Reiki, and there is a meditation, and it's called Experiences through the International Center of Reiki. And it was an experience on guilt and shame. This person, in the session, we were working through that. So that experience, giving the session and working with the energy and just positive affirmations, things like that, focusing on that sacral chakra, that feeling of joy, happiness, and so forth. So that's usually what I do in a session. And it's all, again, the different systems that I learn, different styles. And that's why it's so helpful to have this kind of contour session for a client, because each one is going to be unique and different with it. And it just matter what kind of came through. So so that's kind of how I approach it as well. Yeah. Those that are struggling to get pregnant, those that are pregnant. Yeah. If they're pregnant, we do the session where they lay on their side, or I put a bolster up so they're not laying on their back the whole session. Yeah. And sometimes I'll mix some prenatal yoga session, and then half of it with the prenatal yoga, and then the last 30 minutes as a Reiki session.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So yeah, what I would change as a practitioner also is I would be very aware that the baby is aware of everything and anything. Yes. That they have a knowledge of the history of the father's family and the mother's family. So they will have knowledge of that. And this is something that I will work with when I work on their aura.
Sure.
So their aura, of course, there will not be all the chakras because they haven't developed yet. There will not be very complex energy blocks neither, but they will have so much knowledge that the mother will not have.
Yeah.
So this is quite a dichotomy. So the aura is quite basic. The energy blocks will be quite basic, but the knowledge and wisdom will be amazing.
Sure.
Yeah. And what you just said just reminded me of a client that I had. She came to see me because she wanted to get pregnant. She wanted to have a baby, and so we agreed on a package of 3 sessions. I said, okay, let's start with just energy healing. We're going to clear any energy blocks in the way. Then we're going to have a prenatal session, and then we're going to have a body therapy session. So let's just do this and see where it takes us from there. And she came to see me, and she was like, she just stepped out of Vogue. She was so elegant, and she was every detail of her outfit fit together with anything else. So it was just like, well, she just came out of a photo shooting with Vogue, but it was just like her normal business outfit.
Sure.
And then I cleared energy blocks, and I cleared one big energy block that is basically when you realized over a long period of time that help isn't coming. So anything feels disempowering. You feel like you don't have your own agency. And over a longer period of time, you feel like, okay, nothing is going to help. Nobody is going to help me. Nothing that I do is going to help.
Yeah.
Then this energy block emerges, and it's like, okay, since nobody's seeing how badly I am, how poorly I feel, I might just smile to the world.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to her. So I cleared this very big energy block, and then just a few little ones, but this was the most important one. And then she did not come. She did not show up for a second session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I tried to reach her, of course, because that's what we do, right? So, and she did not show up for a third session either. And then she sent me a message and she said, well, I'm pregnant. I felt pregnant the week after our first session.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. This was so amazing. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So it's so beneficial to get that cleared for those blockages, whether it's shame, guilt, whatever, grief, things like that, that expectation. And one of the things that I reminded my client is it's not about time, it's about alignment. So stop watching the clock, stop watching the calendar, getting fixated on this is when I'm ovulating.
Yeah.
And getting disappointed that, oh, okay, I'm not pregnant this cycle, and just live. Just it'll happen. Let it happen. Go enjoy life. Do those things. Release these things go. So because we have that certain expectation by society, right? By our families that like, oh, you get married. Okay, when are you getting pregnant? Well, gosh, I've been married 5 minutes.
Yeah. And we have
too is it's the isolation too. I mean, my great grandparents had a different experience than I did when I had my children. It was very isolating, and I had to go and look for those groups, and ways to connect. And you would come home and go right into your garage, and no one was sitting on their porch anymore. They go right into their house and live their lives. And we as women are having so much on us. We have to be breadwinner, and we have to be this and that, and just even the guilt from other mothers. I had someone that said to me, like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. She was in the military. They had to travel. So it really made no sense. If you're only going to be somewhere for 3 years, why go, just enjoy it. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. I said, you know what? Enjoy your children. I said, I was able to be there with my children, and they're in their 20s now, and it went by in such a flash. And I spent a lot of time with them, but it felt like, gosh, did I what happened to time? But not to blame anybody else. I mean, everyone has a different path. If you want to go and work full time, absolutely go do it. You want to be a full-time mom, do it as well, and let's just support each other.
Absolutely. Just support each other. That's a good finishing word.
No. So that was our last question. As we were talking, is there anything else that you may have forgotten or something that you would like to share with the listeners? The floor is yours.
Oh, good Lord. There are so many more anecdotes that I could tell, but maybe just if anybody has a question about prenatal psychology, prenatal spirituality, maybe. We haven't talked about that much. Did we, Tracy? Spirituality?
I mean, you can, if you want to add something to it.
Maybe just the one thing. As you said, when you want to get pregnant, enjoy life, enjoy intimacy, enjoy everything that you have. Be aware that your body is doing the right thing. Excuse me. Throat chakra doesn't want to talk right now. But you can also, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
But you can also, there we go. Get in contact with the soul of your baby.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That was just the one thing that I wanted to add.
Yeah. And if it makes you feel any better, when I was doing a session, I had like a coughing spell as well with the
Okay.
like it just things were coming. This happens as part of the work, right?
It's
You know,
part of the work. It's
part of the
the time
work.
of the year also.
Yeah, and like you'll tear up, you'll cough. Yeah.
Mhm. That's so true. That's so true.
So, where can we find you? So, you graciously had done another episode for those that are listening to you for the first time and will eventually go back and listen to your
Yeah.
other episodes. Where can they find you if they're interested in having a session with you? We said in your little intro that you are all over the world, clients all over the world. So, do you have a
Yes.
website, Instagram? Where can we
I
find
do
you?
have I do have a website, but it's still just in German. So contact me via Instagram. That's the easiest way. You can subscribe to my new Substack. I started a Substack,
Beautiful.
so you can join me there as well. But Instagram is, I think, the easiest.